now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to RBLR Sports. We are doing our Rays podcast right now. With me is Zach. And how's it going, Zach?
Oh, pretty good, brother. How are you doing today, man?
Pretty good. I just went for a little morning walk. I like to do that. It makes me feel like I'm digesting my food, which is important, I guess. So before we get started here, I just want to let everybody know that we've been nominated for the Best Podcast for the Best of the Bay Award. So voting ends September 9th. So if you really want to help us out, you could go to the link that we're putting in the description and vote for us for Best Podcast for that Best of the Bay Award. That would be awesome. So that's all I need to say on that, and we'll get into our team news here for the week. Zach, what do you think of this week so far? I mean, I guess we have like today's game, but that doesn't count for our recap here.
Yeah, so aside from today's game, overall we had a good week. We had one bad loss to Boston, the second loss, the one on Friday. Or no, not Friday, sorry, Thursday. Overall, though, I think it was a good performance. We put in work against Baltimore like that was expected, and Boston kind of did what we expected as far as splitting the series with us. So I think it was a good series, though.
Yeah, I agree. I think that second game for Boston against Boston that we lost wasn't really winnable. But it is what it is. We'll get into that later. And yeah, we definitely took care of business against Baltimore. And I was paying attention to the Yankees game last night, and they were really struggling. Baltimore took the Yankees to the 11th inning, I believe, and then New York eventually was able to win. So, all those Yankee fans complaining about how the Rays are, they're only playing Baltimore and they're just beating up on Baltimore. Well, the Yankees are struggling against them a little bit, so that's always fun to see. But I'm sure I'll be able to fit in some more Yankee slander later on in our show today.
Good, we need it.
Yeah, definitely. So I guess we can get into the game-by-game recap from this week. So on the 29th, we had Chris Archer versus Spencer Watkins. He spells Spencer kind of weirdly, but he's still an all right pitcher for a guy with a weird name. But what did you think about that game there?
That was another one where Archer came in. He only pitched 4 innings, which is expected, I would think, against or after coming back from an injury and still being hurt. But he had 6 Ks. Only gave up 2 runs, 1 home run. Overall, I think he looked very good. Chargois comes in, gets the win. Everyone that pitched that game pitched relatively decent, aside from Fleming's. And again, Spencer Watkins, another, aside from the 6 earned runs, struck out 4, allowed 3 home runs. That was a big thing for him. But to have Meadows, Luplow, and Wendell all hit home runs, I think that was a pretty solid game for us.
Yeah, it was awesome because, Watkins is, he started out the season, really well. I remember he had a couple starts against the White Sox and Toronto, and then I think Houston, and he was, holding them all to, 1 run over 5 innings each. But he was, getting, the ball was just getting destroyed off the bat, but it was finding defenders. So, he's definitely fallen off, and the Rays have taken advantage of him a couple times this season. I liked Archer as well. I wish he would have thrown more changeups. I think that would have, kept him from, getting hit around a little bit. But he only threw his changeup 7% of the time, which is 20% less than he normally does. So that was a little weird. But sequencing and the game plan kind of, it seems like it deviated a bit for him, which is fine. He was able to work around it a bit. And yeah, Fleming was not his best, and he's slowly been kind of slipping away a little bit. He's had some good outings and some poor outings. And that can sometimes suggest that he's having a problem with his release point. So I looked into that, and it's actually fallen off to the left. Yeah, his release point has been moving to the left and down over this past month and a half, which is kind of weird, and it's not an intentional thing. So it's a little concerning. So I understand, sending him down to Durham because he can't figure out his release point, and because of that, he's scared to go to his cutter. And if he's scared to go to his cutter, it just makes him get hit around a lot. But I definitely like that game. Joey Wendell was looking to hit some home runs that game, so that was cool. And overall, pretty solid win. But again, it's Baltimore, so not
exactly.
not too much to take away there. But the thing with Fleming, I hope he figures it out in Durham because he could be valuable down the stretch.
I think it was the perfect timing for him to kind of have issues with all the health that we're getting back, as far as, not necessarily people that have been on the roster, but David Robertson's coming up, and just our bullpen's starting to look healthy again. So I think now is the perfect time for him to be sent down and try and figure that out.
Right, yeah, that's true, because even with Fairbanks coming back, he has, he's good against both sides of the plate, but he does have reverse splits a little bit, so he's a little bit better against lefties. So I guess that, kind of allowed Fleming to be more expendable and go down to Durham like that. So yeah, I agree. I like that we're getting healthy. It kind of gives us a little bit more wiggle room with how we're gonna move pitchers around. So
exactly.
Pretty cool. Another pitcher that we've got in the next game here, though, someone that I thought would be going to Durham soon, but he's starting to turn it on a bit. Luis Patino. What'd you think about him in that game against Nick Pivetta and the Red Sox?
Patino is getting. It feels like to me he's getting that swag that every starting pitcher needs. He's not afraid to throw the ball right at you, and I love to see him go out and throw. Go into the 6th inning, only give up 5 hits. 1 home run. That's the only earned run he gave up. So I think that he's just proving kind of why I've had belief in him as far as being a starter for us.
Yeah, I agree. It seems like he's kind of turning it on. He's getting that, he's always kind of had that mentality of I'm going to strike you out with this fastball and you're not going to do anything about it. But he's really throwing it like he means it. I really liked, he definitely did his homework for this game, because he threw 80% of his pitches through the first 4 innings pitched were all fastballs, which usually if you're a starting pitcher, you're going to get destroyed by doing that. But the Red Sox are in the bottom third of the league in offense against the fastball and weighted runs created. So he did his homework and he has a good fastball. So it helped him get through a big portion of the game there. And the Rays looked pretty sharp. Fireis and Fairbanks looked great. And overall, everybody that throws fastballs had a pretty good day. So it was it was a nice win. It was cool that everybody read their scouting reports, I guess. And then the next game we got Brad Peacock, I think that was. Yeah, he's been around forever. It's crazy. He's still pitching. And then Ryan Yarbrough. So what'd you think of that game there on the last day of August?
So that was another game that Yarbrough came out through 6 innings. I know that I haven't been the biggest Yarbrough supporter, but I got to give it to him. He's stepping up as of late. And 6 innings, 5 hits, 2 earned runs, only 1 home run. We don't expect high strikeout numbers from Yarbrough, so he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. And you're right, to see Peacock out there, man, it was kind of a eye opener. Because you're not wrong. He's been around for a little while.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I get that the Red Sox need starting pitching, but it's so weird that was the guy that they decided to go to, because he hasn't been decent since 2017. But he only had 1 swing and miss on 17 swings in that game, so he was not fooling anybody. He was just getting hit around. But then on the flip side, Ryan Yarbrough was fooling a lot of people. He only allowed 4 hard hit balls in 6 innings pitched. And I was trying to figure out why his velocity is still so far down, but it's actually because he's lowering his release point intentionally. So not the same thing Fleming is doing. Fleming was an accident, but Ryan Yarbrough is almost throwing he's always kind of been a 3/4 arm slot guy. So instead of straight up and down, he's his arms off to the side, but it's getting more close to sidearm, and it's allowing a really interesting look to hitters when he's releasing that the pitch from such a far out and a lower arm slot than he normally does. So I think that's why his curveball has been so effective. He hung 2 of them against Boston, but he still looked really solid. And I'm interested to see how far he's going to keep going. If is he going to become an underarm or a sidearm pitcher completely, or
submarine pitcher?
Yeah, I mean if he can throw from this low 3/4 arm slot effectively he has been, and he is also effective from throwing overhand too. He could just switch up his delivery anytime he wanted to, if he is able to get comfortable with that. So he could be a really interesting a bulk guy, or even a 3-4 starter with that kind of stuff. So I like that a lot. All right, and then next we've got Chris Sale and Drew Rasmussen. That was a really cool pitchers duel. I liked that. What did you see out of Rasmussen and Sale?
Sale did exactly what Sale does. As much as I hate to admit it, he's such a good pitcher, man, and it's heartbreaking whenever I see his name in the starting lineup against us. But Drew Rasmussen came out, and I think he's cementing exactly what I've said, that he could be that bulk guy, the opener, but more of a bulk opener. 4 innings, 3 hits, only 1 earned run, and no home runs. So I feel that Rasmussen is showing us is giving us a reason to put him in the starting rotation in the playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. And he's, another fastball pitcher. He was pumping fastballs in that game, and he just obliterated the Red Sox with that, because they've shown time and time again they can't catch up to that high velocity. So his slider command was off a little bit, which is, why he gave up a run. But honestly, if he did what Patino did and just threw like 80%, 70% fastballs, he probably would have, been able to go deeper. But it's tough to only throw a fastball because they're still professional hitters. But he looked solid. It sucks that the Rays hit into so many double plays in this game. That was weird.
Yeah, that's what killed us, because offensively we didn't look bad. Franco hit his 7th home run of the season. Wendell and Franco both hit doubles. It just we happened to hit into double plays an unordinarily large amount, or an unordinarily, what's the word I'm looking for there? High amount of times.
Yeah.
I'll just go with that.
No, that works. And it's they've hit into like the fewest double plays in the league coming into that game. So I think they hit into like 2 or 3, and they just completely like killed their rallies. Yeah, it sucked. And it is what it is. I'd honestly rather take like the strikeout looking on that low borderline pitch than trying to put it in play, because that's what kept leading to those double plays. So I'm sure they'll be fine going forward. I'm sure Cash addressed that immediately, but it looks like they were trying to do a little too much, and it hurt them a little bit.
Yeah, we're playing Boston. Let's see what we can make happen, instead of let's just play how we play normally.
Yeah, because the Rays love to swing as a team. They love to just, they'll swing hard at any pitch. Doesn't matter if it's the first pitch of an at bat, or if they're down 0-2, they're gonna swing hard. But and I think they were just trying to do that a little too much against Chris Sale, who obviously did his homework and was trying to get those ground balls in addition to the strikeouts he gets. And then I know a lot of people were unhappy with the contact play that they ran twice and it didn't work. And they got runners thrown out at the plate twice, I think, going down from third. But what'd you think of that type of aggressiveness on the base paths?
For me, I think it depends on the situation we're in. When we're playing Boston, who's not necessarily right this second, but is one of the better teams in our division, I'm gonna go as aggressive as I can. I enjoy watching them play aggressive like that. But I understand where people are coming from, where if you're failing, don't do it. But at the same time, like I said, I like it. I think that it gets people's heads in that right mind frame to where, yeah, we're going to play aggressive. We're going to win this game.
No, I like that. They wouldn't be doing it if it didn't work a substantial amount of the time. They've been doing this contact play all season, and honestly, it works 5 out of every 6 times, or 8 out of every 10 times, whatever. We just happened to see it not work twice in a row, and I think it made it look worse than it actually was. It didn't help that they were 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position, but even if they didn't run the contact play, they would still have to be better than 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position. So it just, I don't really think the contact play made that much of a difference as some of the people on Twitter and Reddit thought it was. But I was thinking, I literally just thought of this now. It's kind of like if you're taking a multiple choice test, and if you pick A for the answer every single time, you're eventually going to get it right. But if you start switching up your game plan and you're Christmas treeing the test, you actually have a lower chance of getting it right. So I kind of like the Rays way of just stick to the plan. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but more often than not, it will work. And we've seen it work a lot this season because they're one of the highest scoring teams in the league. Actually, I think they have the most runs scored out of any team in baseball.
Yeah,
so.
I think they're number 1 in runs scored.
All right, cool. Well, that makes sense then, because their offense has been great. Unfortunately, in the next game, though, they weren't able to find enough offense against Eduardo Rodriguez with Shane McClanahan on the mound. So any thoughts for that game?
Oh, it pains me to say it, but McClanahan almost showed us that he's human.
Right.
I've been looking over that game because it just felt like something that we haven't seen very much of this season. But McClanahan got hit up a little bit. 8 hits, 4 earned runs. He didn't give up a home run, which is nice, and he still struck out eight batters, but 8 hits is a bit much for him, and I think it's just, once I saw that, I knew that we were not in a good place in that game.
Yeah, it really didn't feel like, I mean, I hate to say it, but that felt like a game that they just weren't going to win. Like, every team is going to win 50 games and lose 50 games no matter who you think you are or who you are. Like, there's nothing you can do. Like, you're going to win 50 and lose 50. I don't know about Baltimore. They might not get to that 50 mark this season, but most of the time, most seasons, like, everybody's winning 50 and losing 50. So that just seemed like one of the games that they were, bound to lose. And McClanahan, he only gave up singles, so it wasn't that bad, but it just seemed like he was trying to make like the perfect put away pitch and strike out everybody, which is great. I love the strikeouts, but if he did his homework with the scouting report a little bit more, he would have just been pumping fastballs when he was up in the count. So he started to do that as he got later in the game, but the first couple innings, it was like curveball, slider, change, like how can I get these guys out? And they were putting the ball in play, and it was, they're all singles, but they all still count. So it is what it is,
Yeah, nope, I agree with you. And to see it happen that way, and for us to only have, I think we had 5 hits that game.
Yeah, the offense was not great.
Yeah, everything about Tampa just did not look great. That was the loss that I was talking about being the one bad loss we had this week, because nothing looked up to the standard of baseball we expect from the Rays in that loss.
Yeah, absolutely. The only like real positive was Franco like continuing his on base streak, but anything else was just not very good.
Yeah, exactly.
And I kind of expected more, because Boston is like barely 500 against left-handed starting pitching this season. I think they're like 27 and 25, and the Rays are actually like 32 and I think like 23, so they've gotten a lot better against lefty starters. So I really thought this was going to be the game the Rays, kind of put that 0 for 11 with runners in scoring position loss behind them, but unfortunately they didn't. Oh well, what are you going to do? McClanahan's still a rookie, so it's understandable that he had those growing pains of, trying to do too much, but I'm sure he'll be fine in his next outing.
And you got to give credit where credit's due. Rodriguez came out and threw 6 innings of 6 Ks, 4 hits. Garrett Richards got the save, only gave up 1 hit over 3 innings. I mean, they struck us out 10 times, which is sort of expected with the Rays, but still, for them to not have any, I mean, they pitched well. I can't be upset with the loss. It just was eye-opening to see us have like that bad of a game, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. That makes sense. I mean, that was like the first time in a while I remember the Rays getting shut out. So at least they didn't get hit in a bunch of double plays that game. So I guess that's a positive too. But speaking of those strikeouts, the Rays did strike out a lot in that game. But then in the next game last night against the Twins, they only had 3 strikeouts as a whole team. So that was pretty cool, like on the offensive side. So they definitely righted the ship a little bit. But what'd you think of that game last night?
Another good outing by Michael Wacha.
I'd love to hear it.
He showed up this week, and it was nice to see, because I know that there was some hate going towards him, potentially from me. So for him to come out, throw 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 earned runs, he did give up 2 home runs, but if I'm not mistaken, they were just solo home runs. So they didn't hurt us too bad. Obviously, we got the win still, but it was nice to see him come out and perform like he would be there.
Yeah, he definitely was. He was pitching like with that kind of like the same like swagger and like mentality as Luis Patino, where he's just going to come in there, throw strikes, and trust his stuff. So it was pretty nice to see him do that. He's definitely been turning it around as of late, and part of that is he's been abandoning his cutter slowly, and he didn't even throw one last night, and he's been throwing that cutter almost like 25-30% of the time, pretty much the whole season until like early August. So it's cool that he's trusting his curveball more. It's a really good pitch, so I like to see that. And the 2 home runs he gave up, one of them was on a pitch that was up and in about like 3 to 4 inches above the strike zone, and then the other one was down and in about like 3 to 4 inches below the zone. So they were like decent pitches that were out of the zone. Those were the pitches that he wanted to throw. But the Twins, they're not a bad team. They're probably like the best worst team, like out of all the like below 500 teams. I think the Twins are probably the best. So it makes sense that they got to him a little.
We saw what happened last time we played them, so I can't be,
right.
Can't be too upset about the opening game of this series, and to get Cruz hit a double, Meadows hit a double, Kiermaier with a triple. We played good. I'm not mad about it, but yeah, to see Wacha, that was definitely one of the highlights of the game for me.
Yeah, he's been getting better, and I liked Robertson too. I know he gave up a run in that outing, but he still looks very impressive since being called up a couple days ago. I really like him, and he's going to be a good weapon out of the bullpen for sure.
Yeah, well, we saw him 2 times this week, and I think he gave up 1 run.
Yeah, and I think he struck out 5 in his 2 innings. So it's like he's got the good stuff still. His cutter's really interesting. It averages 41% more rise than the average cutter. So it's like the arm angle he throws it from, and combined with like the weird spin rate that he gets, it's kind of like it looks like the ball is moving up even though it's not. But it also cuts to the side too. So it's we saw some pretty ugly swings from it last night, which was really cool. And I think that's all I had on that game. Fairbanks also looked good in that game, and I know he gave up a run like the previous game against the Red Sox, but he's had a negative .58 expected FIP since returning from the IL, so he's looking as sharp as ever. Just a little bit of unlucky contact there.
Yeah, and he's still getting all the way healthy again, I think.
Yeah.
So I'm not putting too much weight on this week's outings for him, because he still did relatively decent, but he's still getting fully healthy again, so I'm not worried about him at all.
Right. Yeah, no, that's fair. I think he'll continue to improve. He just needs to stay aggressive and trust his stuff. So overall solid week though. What did we go, like 4 and 2? 5 and 2? Okay, I like it.
Yeah, we played 5 and 2.
Okay, cool. So that's good. I mean, cuz then the Yankees didn't really gain any ground. Even though they had their win streak that came to an end recently, which was pretty awesome to see against the Angels of all teams. So we'll take it. And then anything else from the games this week? Any standout performances for you that you liked a lot?
So yeah, I kind of have a player of the week on the offensive side and the defensive side. So I got,
that's a good idea.
As far as my offensive side, I got a Rosarena and Franco. Rosarena hit 2 home runs this week, just nothing super spectacular, but he put runs on the board for us, which was nice. And then Franco kept that streak going. So, I mean, that's kind of expected for him to be up there. Andy hit a home run, so he's just, I think, coming into his own at the major league level, and I like to see it. And then on the defensive side, I got a pitcher, and I got Michael Wacha.
Nice.
That's my standout player of the week.
Yeah, I love to hear people, talking positively about Michael Wacha, because now I don't have to do it as secretly anymore. Instead of just being like a Wacha truther, hiding somewhere, I'm I can be more open about it, so I don't get persecuted for my beliefs, which is nice.
It's nice to also not have to talk good about him as a defense. Yeah,
exactly. So it's, I can just kind of talk about his performance and not with my back against the wall and everybody mad at me. But no, he's been solid. He was the standout performer for me this week as well. I just think he's continuing to figure out what works for him, and if it's going to be this curveball, changeup, fastball combo, then that's awesome. And his release point's been consistent enough. I think he's finally got enough innings under his belt where he can hit it consistently, so it's only a matter of time before he starts to get really good, and we're starting to see that, which is nice. I didn't really have an offensive performer of the week, but I like that you did that. I'm going to start doing that in the future. But if I had to pick one, it'd probably be Franco as well. He's not getting on base cheaply. Like I think he had like 1 or 2 games where he just kind of like drew a walk in the 8th inning or whatever. But most of the games he's like, yeah, he's still getting on base like at a pretty decent rate. So I mean, it's cool that he's doing that, and I just hope his migraines or concussion symptoms or whatever he had are better by, I think, today. Maybe he'll be in the lineup. If not, I'm sure he'll be in tomorrow.
Yeah, I heard something about either Saturday or Sunday, so we should
cool.
should expect him back this week or this weekend.
And even though he's not in the lineup, one of the September call-ups, Taylor Walls, has been solid at shortstop all year. I know he had an error last night, but I like him a lot. He's just an awesome defender and a switch hitter too, who can put together some decent at bats. So it's nice to have him. I mean, he's no Franco, but he's not a terrible replacement.
Yeah, he's not a scrub for sure.
Yeah. David Robertson was another September call-up. We already talked about him a little bit. He looked great. Shane Baz has looked awesome in Durham. Same with Brent Honeywell, both looking like they're ready to start games at the major league level if they're needed. Do you think we might see Shane Baz or Honeywell come up before the season's over?
I want to see them come up,
right.
But our starting pitching has not looked bad. So that's kind of what worries me. I've been waiting to see Honeywell for a while now. Would love to see him, but I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't, just because our starting pitching is performing well, and we have guys in the bullpen that can cover for a starting pitcher. So could we possibly, but I would imagine we'll probably see more bullpen guys come up.
Right, I think so. Yeah, they might just try to piece together, games or innings or whatever they're trying to do. And I think if Honeywell, because Honeywell played earlier in the season, I'm pretty sure he'd be eligible for the postseason roster, but I know Shane Baz wouldn't because he wasn't on the roster before September 1st. So if he does come up, I think it would be like after we already clinched like the division, and then maybe they just give him like a cup of coffee and, send him back down, let him get a little bit of experience, because I don't think they can carry him onto the postseason roster in like any capacity. Maybe like a taxi squad type thing, but he can't get into games. So
yeah, because you're right, he wasn't on the roster before the cutoff.
Right, but Honeywell was at one point, so I think he's allowed to. I'm not 100% sure, but like you said, we have like the starting pitching and the bullpen arms that are performing well. So I think it would take like a pretty drastic like injury or something for Honeywell to get onto the roster at this point. But honestly, I don't ever know with the Rays. Like I can never be 100% sure because they're so much smarter than me, and they're playing 4D chess while we're all out here playing checkers. And I don't know what game the Orioles are playing, but it's not even checkers. So they're
playing
they're somewhere. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so it's I trust the front office. I'd like to see Honeywell and Baz, but I'm not 100% sure because our pitching has looked good. So it is what it is. But speaking of pitching, if we had to roll out our top 3 for a playoff rotation right now, who are you going with and why?
All right, my top 2 haven't changed. I know that McClanahan had an off game, but he still didn't look bad. So McClanahan is going number 1. Number 2 is going to be Drew Rasmussen because he continues to perform probably above what he should be that many times through the lineup, but I'll take it. I'm happy with it. And then I got to give the 3rd spot to my player of the week. I'm going to go with Michael Wacha. I think he's showing us that maybe the last couple of times he pitched before this week were not what he can actually do, and he's coming into his own with us again.
No, I like that. That makes sense. I also would go with Shane McClanahan as a number 1, but I'm going to put like a little asterisk next to that because I want to see him make the adjustments that he needs to make for the next game. So like, whether that's, doing more prep work before the game or just kind of like going with what works in a game instead of like, I mean, I like that the Rays and their players like stick to their plans, but as a pitcher, I feel like you still have to try to be like a little flexible. So, if he just went with his fastball more when he saw that it was working, I think that would have been better. But so far, he's still number one for me. We'll see how his next outing goes. I think I would firmly go with Rasmussen as the number two. I know, in the past I've been a little bit kind of hesitant to put him there, but that was his statistically his best outing as a starter in terms of expected FIP. So he controlled the game really well, and he took care of business. His slider command, like we said, was off a little bit, but he's looking like he could go definitely one time through the order now, maybe two. Like, he's starting to figure out his curveball a bit more. And Kevin Cash has said it before, like, Rasmussen has 4 quality pitches. So I think he's trying to manifest Rasmussen to be good. But if he starts to believe in himself, I could see him really taking off and, being able to get through a lineup 2 times. I'm going to hold off on saying that he could get through a lineup 3 times, but he's got the rest of the season to prove that he could do that. But I think he's still good for 4 to 6 innings in a start if all of his stuff is working. So I like him as the number 2. And number 3, I'm going to go with Yarbrough just because I like how interesting his release point experiment has been and how his curveball's coming along. I know I'm a Michael Wacha truther, but he could definitely, break into the top 2 if he has another good start, and if Rasmussen, McClanahan, or Yarbrough, any of them kind of fall off a bit this week. So it's nice that we have all these options. So I'd definitely go McClanahan, Rasmussen, and then Yarbrough as the hybrid bulk starter guy, just because of that weird arm angle he's starting to create for himself.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's nice to have all these options because literally you said Yarbrough for your number 3. I said Wacha. It could very well be Patino.
Oh, yeah.
I think that Tampa has multiple top 3 starters in a playoff rotation for most teams in the league.
Definitely. I think McClanahan is the closest thing they have to a true ace with Glass now injured, but everybody else is a 2-3 starter. They can get it done. So I think Patino or Archer with a couple good starts, they could crack the top 3. So worst case scenario, we have just a bunch of bulk guys that can go 2 to 3 innings, and then the elite bullpen arms that we've seen. So I really like their chances when they get to the playoffs, because I don't think it's a question of if they make the playoffs. I think it's a question of when are they going to clinch, and when can I get a playoff bound T-shirt or something.
Yeah, exactly. When do we find out who we're playing from the wild card?
Yeah, so I'm hoping that I would love to see a Red Sox Yankees wild card, but because I think that would be interesting. But I don't know if the Red Sox are going to hold on that long. So
I'd be
we'll
very
see.
surprised.
I don't know what 2 teams would you like to see the most in the wild card?
I'm gonna pull that up right now for you because
I know. Yeah.
I don't want to see. How's Oakland doing?
They're a couple games out. Them and Seattle are the closest. Toronto's kind of hanging around, but not really, which is surprising because I thought they would have been better. But Boston and New York are the top right now, and then Oakland, Seattle, and kind of Toronto are in the mix.
I don't want to see Seattle. That's terrifying.
Yeah, I don't want to see that. That would not be fun.
So yeah, if I had to pick who I want to see, it'd be nice to see Toronto and New York.
Yeah.
But like you said, Toronto's 5 games back, which is not unsurmountable if Boston and Oakland and Seattle all kind of slide.
Right.
But
that's true.
It'll probably be either, if I had to guess right now, New York and the A's or the Mariners in the wild card game. And if I had to pick who I want to play out of those, probably New York.
Yeah,
played pretty well
really
against New York.
Yeah, I mean, and they've gotten better. They've had the 2nd best record in the league since the All-Star break, just behind the Rays. So they're a little bit better. But yeah, I think I'd rather face New York out of Seattle, and well, I don't think Boston's gonna make it, but I'd still rather face New York just because I know we would see Chris Sale in the wild card game, exactly. And with New York, we would see Garrett Cole, but G-Man Choi is Garrett Cole's dad, so it doesn't really matter. And Yandy Diaz can hit Garrett Cole a little bit too, which is kind of interesting.
I was going to bring that up. Yandy Diaz has decent numbers against Garrett Cole as well.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I like the Rays' chances, against the Yankees, just because I know Garrett Cole hasn't been invincible since the sticky tack stuff came
Yep.
down. And then next we've got here, I guess we'll move on to our next thing. We've got the injuries that we're trying to see get resolved. So I know we've got Anderson rehabbing in Durham still. He looks like he could return mid-September, maybe late September, if that. But he's starting to throw mid-90s now, so he's almost back to normal with his velocity. He's looking pretty sharp. He had a good outing, I think, last night or 2 nights ago. We know Fire and Fairbanks were recently activated. They both looked good. Ryan Thompson he could be out for the season, surprisingly. He got hit by a comebacker in his outing. I think we talked about it on the last episode.
Yeah.
And it set him back a little bit, but then he had to go see a doctor for some shoulder stuff. So he's if he comes back, it'll be like late September, but it's starting to look like we might not see him again this season, unfortunately. But next man up, the Rays got to have that mentality. So we'll see. Next, we've got Brett Phillips. He went to the IL with an ankle sprain, but he thinks he'll be out for the minimum of 10 days. But I hope he gets back soon. I hope he's comes back in swinging, because he's been really, really good against right-handed pitching. So not as good as like Brandon Lau or Austin Meadows, but I think he's like third on the team, just ahead of Joey Wendell in terms of like production against righties. So it's cool because he plays elite defense and he can hit righties pretty well.
Yeah, that one hurt my heart a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's just like that. I feel like we might not have lost that first game against Boston if he was like, in the game, ready to be that spark for the team. But, it is what it is. He brings the energy, so it sucks when he's out, but I'm sure we'll see him back soon.
Yeah, I would imagine we do.
And Oliver Drake, I don't know if we said it last time, but he's not coming back this season. He's like 99.99% like finished for the year. So hopefully he gets healthy and we see him in spring training next year. And Matt Whistler, he's doing fine with his right middle finger inflammation. I'm still doing air quotes for that. He's going to face some hitters tomorrow in like a live batting practice session. So after he faces them on Sunday, he'll get reevaluated. But I don't see any reason why he wouldn't be activated by Monday. And Chris Mazza, he's on the COVID IL for like close contact, but the Rays said he should be back soon. And they didn't even bother like replacing his spot on the roster with the September call-ups, because they called up Walls and Robertson and then put Mazza on the COVID IL. So they could add another pitcher, but they haven't bothered to because they think he's going to be back soon. So that's a good sign. And G-Man Choi is going to start his rehab today on Saturday in the Florida Complex League. So it'll be nice to get his bat back in the lineup. Hopefully that hamstring stuff is over, because I know it's been lingering, but he's such a valuable player when platooning at first base or coming in as a pinch hitter. Like he's just a great guy to have in the lineup.
Yeah, he's another one of those guys with the energy. Like we mentioned it about Brett Phillips, but Choi's kind of the same way. He's not as eccentric with it, but he's you see pictures and stuff of him pumping people up in the dugout, and it wouldn't be a bad thing to have him back.
Oh yeah, he's definitely a great clubhouse guy, for sure. And and he did show like he can bring that energy to the team. He can be the spark. I think when the Rays were playing in Dunedin against Toronto, when they had to they weren't allowed to go back to Toronto because of COVID, he was just dominating in those games in Dunedin. I know it's like a small ballpark, but he was really feeling himself. So hopefully we get him back 100% healthy soon, because he looked like he'd been playing injured for a little while up until his IL stint.
This is the second IL stint he's had this season, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think they're both hamstring related.
Yeah,
so they're
so.
It's a weird injury, because like they think they're healthy, but then one wrong step and it could set them back like a week. So I'm sure they're going to take their time this time, because the Rays they're in a good spot. They don't need to rush him back. They did need to rush him back a little bit last time, because they were kind of a couple games back. They needed help against right-handed pitching and left-handed pitching, but now their offenses looked solid, so they can take their time with him. So hopefully he's back soon. But anything else, injuries that I might have missed? I'm not sure. I know COVID's kind of weird, so we could have some guys I missed.
I think you got everyone that I had. The major one for me was Phillips, because that's the only new one that went to the IL. Everything else was kind of updates, so I think you got I think you got everything solid.
Okay, cool. Yeah, awesome. Then we can move on. A couple more notes I have here. Aaron Sledgers. I don't know how to say his last name. It's sorry about that. If you're listening, Aaron, I am. You can tell me and I will fix it, but or we can just have Eureka edit it in if we can get a correct pronunciation at one point. So remember this timestamp. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, Aaron Slegers, whatever. He signed a 2-year minor league deal with the Rays this past week with an invitation to spring training. It's pretty cool to see him back because he was decent when he was with the Durham Bulls and then a little bit with the Rays. But to sign a 2-year minor league deal with a month left in the season and an invitation to spring training is very uncommon. So I'm really interested to see like what the Rays' plan is for him because I know he's like a big 6'5", 6'6" right-hander, something like that. He throws like, low mid 90s, but if you're signing a guy to a 2-year minor league deal and inviting him to spring training like months before you even have to, I think that's a pretty good sign that they have a plan for him. So really interested to see how that unfolds.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like maybe there were other teams interested, and Tampa was like, well, look, we'll just give it to you now.
Right, that's true.
We'll take you maybe now.
I think he was like DFA'd by the Angels too, so it's like the Angels got Hunter Strickland from the Rays. They DFA'd him eventually. They signed Aaron Sledgers as like a minor league free agent, DFA'd him. So maybe Rays pitchers just don't like pitching in Anaheim. Maybe that's something.
I don't blame them.
I mean, it's kind of similar to the Trop. Like they don't get too many rainouts for some reason there, but that team is not very good for a team with 2 MVP candidates. They're surprisingly not very good.
Not only 2 MVP candidates, but you got who's widely known as the best player in baseball.
Right.
For you to have Mike Trout and still not be a good team is mind blowing.
That's true. And honestly, like they have a pretty good manager in Joe Madden, so this season should have gone a lot better than it did. They got Anthony Rendon too, who's had a poor season, but it's weird how they have so many like pretty decent pieces, but then they can't figure it out. Like David Fletcher is like an amazing contact hitter. Mike Trout, he's definitely a future Hall of Famer. I don't know if it's too early to say the same for Shohei Ohtani, but he's an all-star, probably a future Hall of Famer if he keeps it up. Like they have so many good players, but they just can't figure it out, I guess.
I was going to say it's early, but I would be willing to say he's a future Hall of Famer.
Yeah, like who else is going to do what he's doing? He's got over 40 home runs. He's like the best starting pitcher on his team. He might even be that best starting pitcher in that division behind like Frankie Montas of the Athletics.
Might be higher up than just the highest or the best on his team. I think he's probably top 3 in that division.
That's true. I mean, with Justin Verlander out, like who else, are you gonna like? Who else is the best pitcher there? I guess
exactly.
Other than Ohtani. True. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I'm glad they figured it out though enough to beat the Yankees. I think they took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. So. Thank you, Angels. Sorry for saying bad things about you, but if you play the Yankees again this season, which I doubt it, please take 2 more games from them.
I will root for you if you're playing the Yankees.
Oh yeah, I will root for anybody that's playing the Yankees other than Boston.
Yeah,
that
Boston
I wouldn't really have
a
favorite.
I want them both to lose.
Yeah. We got to figure out a way that they could, somehow both get a loss from that game and then both drop games at the same time. I don't know if that's possible, but
bring someone in and put sticky tack on the pitcher's gloves.
Yeah, you know what? I'd do it, honestly.
There
like they can ban me for life. I'll just continue like watching the games on TV, listening on the radio. The Rays have a great broadcast crew all around. If I get banned for life, I get banned for life. I don't think I'm going to try that though, because that would be kind of embarrassing, but
it's worth it. I'm telling you.
I'll think about it. So we've got some upcoming matchups this week. We've got 2 more at home against the Twins. So today on Saturday and then tomorrow on Sunday. They're both day games, and the Rays are an MLB best 36-14 in day games. They have the best winning percentage in the league during those games, so that's pretty cool. I think the Rays have an off day, or they just go straight to Boston. But either way, next they go to Boston for 3. And then I know they have an off day between the end of the Boston series and their beginning of their away series in Detroit against the Tigers. So pretty cool to see them go back on the road. Hopefully they can do some damage against the Tigers. I know they've struggled this year. And this will be their last series for the season against Boston. So pretty important 3 games up there. What are your predictions for this week here as we go on the road a bit?
I don't know much about Detroit. That's another team that I don't really pay attention to. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that we don't lose a game this week.
I would love that. That would be awesome.
I think that we're gonna sweep the Twins. My prediction is Nelson Cruz is gonna come in big somewhere. I don't know where, but he's gonna do something big. and then we're gonna win all 3 against Boston to shut them out for the season. Drop them down below Oakland in the wild card, and then Detroit. I'm just going off hope that we beat Detroit, to be honest with you. I don't know anything about Detroit.
I don't know a ton about them. I know that they were like they're near the bottom of the league against left-handed pitching. So they were like with the Rays for most of the season, like in the bottom of the league against lefties because the Rays were not good against lefties earlier. But the Rays, they made their trades to improve, and they've seen some positive regression. And then the Tigers have kind of stayed at the bottom. So hopefully we can roll out like McClanahan, Yarbrough, and I don't know who else. I think those are only lefties now with Fleming.
Yeah, with
out.
Fleming gone.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully they can roll out like Yarbrough and McClanahan and just make those games quick. Because I think it's like an hour late start time, and I don't want to stay up too late watching them because got to work in the morning. So McClanahan just work quickly and efficiently. Same thing with Yarbrough. That would be nice. And I'm excited for this Boston series, though. I think it's going to be a battle, but I think the Rays are going to at least win the series. I know they're on a 2-game losing streak technically against Boston, but I think they can pull it out. So that would be nice to win that series up there in Boston. And I just looking it up real quick. I also had Cruz as I think he's going to be better this week. I think we're going to see some positive regression from him just because he's been doing it like a couple times a game. Actually, I think it's probably more fair to say a couple times a week. Like he'll hit a ball like 110 miles an hour with like the optimal launch angle and still make an out, and the expected batting average will be like over 700 on those balls. So he's starting to do that more frequently. So I think it's just a matter of time before those balls start like finding the gap or making it all the way to the wall. So I like Cruz this week. I think he'll do pretty well for himself. And he does have a career 881 OPS against current Detroit Tigers pitching. So he should be able to get to the Tigers a bit. He's pitched really well he's hit really well against like almost all of their starters. So I really like his chances this week. Even though they only have like 2 games against the Tigers that we're going to be talking about, or maybe it's 1, but I still think he'll perform well this week.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else here? Anything else we missed before we wrap it up and do our thing?
No, looks like we got everything.
All right, cool. Well, those of you that you're listening, thank you for making it this far. We appreciate it. Not turning it off in the middle of the episode. If you want to help us out, you could follow us on RBLR at RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook on your social medias if you want to. No pressure, but we would really appreciate that. It's how you can help us help us, and we can keep making some great content. We still do the Rowdies, the Lightning, the Bucks, and I had an epiphany at like 3 a.m. a couple nights ago. I was like, oh my gosh, RBLR stands for Rays, Bucks, Lightning, Rowdies. Like I never realized
Holy
that
cow.
until
okay, hold on.
I just realized that a couple days ago, so I'm really excited to break that news to all the listeners who haven't realized it on the podcast that I've been. Yeah, that's probably it. I mean, I've only been doing this since like late June, so it's been a couple months, but I finally figured out what acronyms are, so that's always nice. But anyways, yeah, thank you all for listening. If you want to help us out even more, you can also like and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio app, Apple and Google Podcasts. We're also on YouTube and other major podcast forums. So again, thank you all for listening to our episode today. And if you'd like to, please like, subscribe, follow, do all that fun stuff. And I'll leave Zach with the final words here to close us out.
All right. Well, hey, I know Ben touched on it earlier in the show, but if you guys could just pretty please go to the Best of the Bay and vote for us. Voting in September 9th. We got a link in the description below. All you gotta do is get on and vote for us. That'd be awesome. We'd really appreciate it. And hopefully you guys have a fantastic holiday weekend. Take that extra day off, recover, and go Rays.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.